Term 5, Lesson 2. This follows on from Lesson 1, where you were comparing two numbers and you're using the symbol for less than or more than between the two numbers. Have a go at these 8 questions. Remember to press pause on the video and then press play when you're ready to go through the answers. Okay, let's go through the answers. Question 1, I can see we have 6 ones on both numbers, so I look at the tenths. 7 tenths and 3 tenths. 3 is less than 7, so this is my smaller number. Question 2, 14 is my whole number. I look at my tenths column. I have 6 tenths here and 6 tenths here. So I need to go to my hundredths column, where I have 4 hundredths here and 8 hundredths here. 4 is my smaller number. I'm going to do my arrowhead facing that way. Remember, we always point towards the smaller number. Here we've got 0 ones on both numbers, 1/10 in both numbers, 2 hundredths in both numbers, 3 thousandths on this number and 8 thousandths on this number. So the 3 is the smaller number. I'll do my arrowhead pointing that way, the less than symbol. Question 4, we have 28 as a whole number for both numbers. In the tenths column, we have 0 and 0. So we need to go to the hundredths column. We have 8 hundredths and 7 hundredths. 7 is the smaller number, so we do our arrow pointing towards the 7. Question 5. We've got 2 hundredths on both numbers. We've got 4 tens in both numbers. We've got 7 ones and 8 ones. So 7 ones is our smaller number. We do our less than facing towards our 7. We've got 100 in both numbers, 0 tens in both numbers, 3 ones in both numbers. So we look at our decimals, 0 tenths and 0 tenths, 0 hundredths, 0 hundredths, 4 thousandths and 3 thousandths. So the 3 is our smaller number. We do our arrow pointing towards our 3. 103.004 is more than 103.0035. Next question, we have 0 in the ones column. We have 5 in the tenths column. We have 6 in the hundredths column and 0 in the hundredths column. So the 0 is the smaller number. Use your arrowhead pointing that way. Last question. We have 23 whole numbers here and 23 whole numbers here. So we look at our tenths column. We have 5 tenths and 6 tenths. So 5 tenths is our smaller number, and we do our arrow pointing that way. Okay, mark that work, and we'll look at the next slide. This slide shows a key point. Could you write this down in your book or on your piece of paper? Press pause while you're doing that. Press play when you've done that. Okay, key point, numbers in ascending order go from smallest to largest. Numbers in descending order go from largest to smallest. So I've got 2 sets of numbers here that I'm going to show you how we will put in order. The question says, write these decimals in ascending order. So I check out ascending, it's going from smallest to largest. So I've got to look now for my smallest number. I can see that there's 5 ones in all of the numbers. So I look at the tenths column. I've got 2 tens here, 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 and here. They're all the same, so I need to go to the hundredths column. I've got 5 hundredths, 8 hundredths, 3 hundredths, and 1 hundredth. So the 100th is the smallest number. That's the number I write first. I like to cross that number out because then I know I've used that number, it hasn't been forgotten about, and I don't have to look at it again. Let's check out the last 3 numbers. Remind myself I've got 5 hundredths, 8 hundredths, and 3 hundredths. So the 3 is my next smallest number. 5.23. And I'm going to cross it out. I've got 2 numbers left to compare. I've got 5 in this hundredths column and 8 in this hundredths column. So 5 is the smaller of the 2 numbers. I write that one next. When I cross that one out, I'm only left with 1 number, which must be my biggest number, and I write that one last. Now, before I finish that question, I just want to have a little check. I know that I've got 5 in the ones column for all the numbers, and I know that I've got 2 tenths for all of the numbers. So I'm just going to check that my hundredths are in ascending order, smallest to biggest. So I've got 1 here, 3 here, 5 here, 8 here. All done, all good. So for this second set of numbers, I've got 4 in the ones column for all the numbers. So I now need to check the tenths column. I have 3 tenths, 6 tenths, 7 tenths, and 1 tenth. So 1 is the smaller of those numbers. That's going to be my first number. And I'm crossing it out. So let's go back and check our tenths column here. I've got 3, 6, and 7. 3 is the smallest number, and that's the one I write next, 4.3. And cross it out. Okay, 2 numbers left to compare. I've got 6 in my tenth column and 7 in my tenth column. So the 6 is my next smallest number. It's 4.67. And when I cross that out, I'm only left with 1 number, which is my biggest number. Okay, so remember, always start from the left-hand side of the number, check the value you're looking at, and then go down towards the right where the values become smaller and smaller. Okay, I'd like you to have a go at question 12 on your own. You've got 2 different orders to do. You're to label them first, second, third, and fourth in these events. The sprint time. Now, to come first in the sprint, you've got to run in the shortest time. So you're going to look for the smallest number first. But when you're doing the triple jump, to come first, you need to do the longest jump. So you'll be looking for the biggest number. So press pause on the video, have a go at the question, and when you're ready, press play and we'll look at the answers. Okay, let's go through the answers. Part A, the sprint times. You should have 16.28 seconds, 16.3 seconds, 16.39 seconds, and 16.4 seconds. If you look at the tenths column, we have 2 in the column for our quickest time, and we have 4 in our tenths column for our slowest time. So part B, you're looking for the longest jump first, 14.23. Second is 14.2. Third is 14.1. And fourth is 14.08. Okay, give yourselves a tick or correct any errors, and we'll look at the next slide. Okay, I've copied the key point here so you can just check what ascending and descending means. Have a go at this question on your own. These are to be arranged in descending order. Press pause on the video and then press play when you're ready for the answers. Okay, let's look at the answers. 13A, you should have 0.111 and then 0.11 and then 0.10 and finally 0.01. You're going from the biggest to the smallest, descending order. Part B, 9.98, 9.9, 9.89, 9.809. Okay, so now we're going to look at some rounding of numbers. I've put all 3 key points on one slide here for us to go through. When we're rounding to the nearest whole number, we need to look at the tenths column. So ones is our whole number, so we look at the next value down to the right to tell us what to do with that whole number. So for example, over here, we've got 7, 7.5 and 8. 7.5 is exactly in the middle, and that's where we make the decision to go up to the nearest whole number above that. So anything here between, for example, 7.5 is included, and 7.6, 7.7, 7.8, and 7.9 would all be rounded up to 8. Anything below this midline would be rounded down to 7. So 7.4, 7.3, 7.2, 7.1 would all be rounded down to 7. Now, if you're asked to round to 1 decimal place, your answer must only have 1 digit in the decimal place. For example, if you were asked to round 1.62 to 1 decimal place, 1.60 is not correct, as there are 2 numbers beyond the decimal point. 1.6 would be your correct answer. You've rounded to 1 decimal place. Now, if you are asked for rounding to 1 decimal place, you look at the hundredths. So if I go back to this value table, if we're asked to round to 1 decimal place, which is the tenths, we have to look at the number that is in the hundredths column to tell us whether to leave the tenths column alone or to add 1 to it. So if we look at this example that's given, we've got 3.15 in the middle of 3.1 and 3.2. Anything that's within 3.15, 3.16, 3.17, 3.18, 3.19 would all round up to be approximately 3.2. Anything below this line, 3.14, 3.13, 3.12, 3.11, would all round down to be approximately 3.1. If you want to copy those two grids down, press pause, and then when you've completed that, press play for the next slide. So have a go at these yourselves. The first one has been done for you. Round each number to the nearest whole number. 7.8 is approximately equal to 8 because it's closer to 8 than it is to 7. Press pause whilst you write these down and then press play when you're ready to go through the answers. Okay, let's look at the answers. 14A is 8, B is 9, C is 5, D is 7, E is 15, F is 18, G is 3, H is 8. Question 15. A is 13.9, B would be 1.8, C is 2.0, and D 5.1. All the other numbers have more than one decimal place, so do not belong in the list. Okay, I'd like to just show you a video in case you're still a little bit confused about rounding.
this video, we're going to look at how to round numbers to 1 or 2 decimal places. So if I'm rounding a number to 1 decimal place, that means you just want one number after the decimal point. If you're rounding a number to 2 decimal places, you want to have 2 numbers after the decimal point, or 2 digits after the decimal point. So let's have a look at how to do that now. So if we're asked to round a number to 1 decimal place, for instance, 1.54, what that means is that you want to round it as a number with just 1 digit after the decimal point, okay? At the minute, it's got 2 decimal places, a 5 and a 4 after the decimal point, and you just want to have one number. So I've just drawn a number line. 1.5 would be here, 1.51, 1.52, 1.53, 1.54, 1.55, 1.56, 1.57, 1.58, 1.59, and 1.6. So if I was rounding 1.54 to 1 decimal place, as you can see, it's closer to 1.5 than it is to 1.6. That means we would round it down to 1.5 because it's left in the middle. So rounding 1.54 to 1 decimal place would be 1.5. If we wanted to round 1.57 on the other hand to 1 decimal place, you can see it's closer to 1.6 than it is to 1.5. So it would round up and it would round to 1.6. Let's look at some examples. So the question says round 5.76 to 1 decimal place. So whenever you're rounding to 1 decimal place, you look at the second decimal place to see if you're going to round up or keep it the same. So if this number here is a 5, a 6, a 7, an 8, or a 9, you round up. If it's a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, you round down. So it's 5.76. The second decimal place is a 6. That means we're going to round up. So it would be 5.8. So rounding 5.76 to 1 decimal place would be 5.8. Next, round 61.74 to 1 decimal place. So again, we look at the second decimal place. The second decimal place is a 4, so that means we round down. So then it would be 61.7. So 61.74 rounded to 1 decimal place then would be 61.7. Next, round 7.163 to 1 decimal place. Now this number has got 3 decimal places, so it's got 1, 2, 3 numbers after the decimal point. Again, you still look at the second one. So the second number, the second decimal place is a 6. So that means, again, we're going to round up because it's a 6, it's above, it's 5 and above. So that means it's going to be 7.2. You can ignore everything else. You just need to look at the second decimal place to see if you can round up or down for whenever you're going to round to one decimal place. Next, here's a recurring number, 8.6 recurring, so it goes on forever. And again, you just need to look at the second number after the decimal point, it's the second decimal place. Well, that would be a 6. So again, that means we're going to round up. So the answer would be 8.7. Let's look at some questions. So 8.32 rounded to one decimal place. Well, the second decimal place is a 2. That means we're going to round down. It's going to be 8.3. 0.89. The second decimal place is a 9. That means you round up. So that means that it's going to be 0.9. This number, 79.3843, rounded to one decimal place. Well, the second decimal place is an 8. That means you're going to round up. So rounded to one decimal place, it would be 79.4. And finally, 8.99 rounded to one decimal place. The second decimal place is a 9. We're going to round up. That would make this 9 a 10. So that would keep a 0 here and make the 8 become a 9. So it would be 9.0. Sometimes you might want to be a little bit more accurate whenever you're rounding. So rather than rounding to one decimal place, you may want to round to 2 decimal places. So to do that, instead of looking at the second decimal place, this time we're going to look at the third decimal place. So it says round 5.763 to 2 decimal places. So the third decimal place is a 3. That means we're going to round down. So that means it would become 5.76. So to 2 decimal places, 5.763 would be 5.76. Next, round 7.163 to 2 decimal places. Well, the third decimal place, because we're rounding to 2 decimal places, we only want 2 numbers after the decimal point. So we're going to look at the third one. The third one's a 3, so we round down. So it's going to be 7.16. Next, round 61.745 to 2 decimal places. So again, because we just want 2 numbers after the decimal point, we're going to look at the third. The third one's a 5, that means we're going to round up this time. So it's going to be 61.75. And finally, round 4.2809 to 2 decimal places. We will only want 2 numbers after the decimal point, so we're going to look at the third. It's a 0, so that means we're going to round down. So it's going to be 4.28. Sorry, not finally. Round 2.666 recurring to 2 decimal places. So we would have 2.6666 and so on. When you want 2 numbers after the decimal point, so we look at the third. It's a 6, that means we're going to round up. So it's going to be 2.67. Let's have a look at a few questions. So round all these numbers to 2 decimal places. So 8.784. 8.784. You look at the third decimal place. It's a 4. So we're going to round down. It's going to be 8.78. 0.1294. Well, again, you look at the third number after the decimal point. It's a 9. So you round up. So it's going to be 0.13. 87.30521. Again, you look at the third number after the decimal point, which is a 5. We round up. It's going to be 87.31. And finally, if we had 4.0995 and you wanted to round it to 2 decimal places, you'd only want 2 numbers after the decimal point, so we underline the third one. And we decide, because it's 9, we're going to round up. So rounding the 9 up gives you 10. So that means that you're going to then get 4.10. So that's how you round numbers to 1 or 2 decimal places.
Okay, so I hope we're all a little bit clearer on that. And let's try our next slide. So have a go at these ones. Remember the rules. If you're rounding to 1 decimal place, you look at the second decimal place to tell you what to do. So question 16a, The first one has been done for you. 3.17 is approximately 3.2. Here's our first decimal place. We have to look at our second decimal place. If it's 5 or more, you have to add 1 to the previous number. Okay, have a go, press pause, and then press play when you're ready to look at the answers. Okay, let's have a quick check of the answers. So question 16A is 3.2, B is 8.2, C is 4.8, D is 3.1, E is 15.6, F is 0.6, G is 3.0, H is 8.0. Remember, for H, we're looking at the second digit here, which is a 9, which means we have to add 1 to the 9 in front, so that becomes a 0, and we have to add 1 to that, making it 8. When it's a 0.0 and you're asked to do it to 1 decimal place, you have to show the 0 in that tenths column. Question 17. A is 40. So you're estimating, which means you're rounding. So 7.8 is roughly 8, and 5.3 is roughly 5. So 8 times 5 is 40. 17B is 30, C is 21, D is 32, E is 3, F is 20, G is 2, H is 3. When you're asked to estimate an answer, they are not looking for the exact answer. So you don't use a calculator or anything to find the exact answer. You estimate by rounding and then working out what's easiest for you to work out. So question 18, Sally tries working out an estimate of 8.45 divided by 0.306 by writing 8 divided by 3. Now that's quite difficult to do, 8 divided by 3. So what's an easier way of rounding these numbers to work out an estimate for 8.45 divided by 3? Okay, so an easier way to work that one out would be actually to round that 8.45 up to 9 and then divide by 3, and your answer would be 3. So it can be approximately 3. Okay, if you're feeling very confident, could you please have a go at the challenge and then complete the Term 5 Lessons 1 and 2 quiz. These relate to Unit 4.1. Okay, thank you for watching and good luck.